I sat in that leather chair at the end of the conference table while my half-sister Catherine looked at the lawyer and said the words she'd been thinking my entire life. Surely Elena doesn't expect to inherit anything. She's not really family. The room went silent not because anyone disagreed, but because she'd finally said what they'd all been thinking for 28 years. But then Margaret Whitmore's attorney, Dorothy Chun, looked Catherine dead in the eye and said one sentence that shattered everything. Actually, Mrs. Patterson, Elena is the only heir Margaret truly considered family. My name is Elena Vasquez. I'm 28 years old, and I'm the daughter nobody wanted but everyone used. My mother, Margaret Whitmore, was Newport royalty, old money, old name, old expectations. She had 3 perfect children with her first husband before he died. Then, age 45, she had a relationship with my father, Roberto Vasquez, a contractor from Mexico. I was the result. The embarrassment, the brown-skinned reminder of her moment of weakness. My father went back to Mexico when I was 2. Margaret paid him to leave, and I grew up in the Whitmore mansion, raised by the woman who gave me life, but never let me forget I didn't belong. The differences started from birth. My siblings had bedrooms in the main house. I had a small room above the garage for Christmas cards. I stood in the back, often cropped out later. At family dinners, I was introduced as Elena, who lives with us, never my daughter. My siblings absorbed Margaret's treatment and amplified it. Why does she even eat with us? Catherine asked once, loud enough for me to hear. I was 8. School was worse. That's the Whitmore bastard, kids whispered, the Mexican one. My siblings never corrected anyone. Catherine got a BMW for her 16th birthday. Richard got a Mercedes. I got a used Honda at 18. It's practical, Margaret said. College was the biggest difference. My siblings went to Ivy League schools, fully paid. I got state school and $40,000 in loans. Catherine's wedding cost $300,000. I was invited but not included, no bridesmaid position, seated with distant cousins who didn't know who I was. 6 months ago, Margaret had a massive stroke. Catherine, Richard, and Thomas hired nurses, visited once a week, talked about power of attorney more than they talked to Margaret. I quit my job, moved into the main house, became her primary caregiver, fed her, bathed her, sat with her through the fear. Why are you doing this? Thomas asked. Because she's my mother. She never treated you like a daughter. I know, but maybe that says more about her than about me. Margaret died 3 weeks ago. I was holding her hand. Her last words were barely audible. I'm sorry. My siblings arrived hours later, immediately discussing funeral arrangements and the will. The will reading is next week, Catherine said. We should discuss what happens to the house. We? I asked. She looked at me like I was presumptuous for even speaking. The family, Elena. The real family. Today, we gathered at Dorothy Chun's law office. Catherine, Richard, and Thomas on one side, perfectly confident. Me on the other, alone, wearing a Target dress, expecting nothing. Margaret Whitmore's estate is valued at approximately $25 million, Dorothy announced. My siblings practically glowed. Before we discussed distribution, Margaret left a letter to be read aloud. Dorothy pulled out an envelope and began reading. To my children. My greatest mistake was how I treated Elena. I gave her a room in the servants' quarters. I excluded her from family photos. I introduced her as someone who lives with us rather than as my child. My 3 eldest children followed my lead, treating Elena as less than family because I showed them that was acceptable. Catherine shifted uncomfortably. But in my final 6 months, Elena showed me what family truly means. She gave up her job to care for me. Catherine, Richard, and Thomas visited occasionally, asking about my will more than my pain. They were already dividing my assets before I was even gone. Dorothy paused. So I decided to give my estate to the one person who actually loved me. Dorothy picked up the will. To Catherine Patterson, I leave $50,000. Catherine's mouth fell open. 50,000 out of 25 million. To Richard Whitmore, I leave $50,000. Richard stood up. This is insane. To Thomas Whitmore, I leave $50,000. Who gets the rest? Catherine demanded. Dorothy looked at me. To Elena Vasquez, I leave the Newport Mansion, all investment portfolios, the summer house in Martha's Vineyard, the properties in Boston and New York, the entirety of my estate, approximately $24 million. The room exploded. She's not even a Whitmore, Richard shouted. This will be contested, Thomas said. Enough. Dorothy pulled out a laptop. Margaret anticipated this. She recorded this video 2 months ago. Margaret appeared on screen, in her wheelchair, speaking clearly. I am of sound mind. I have been evaluated by 3 doctors. Catherine, Richard, Thomas, I gave you everything. Trust funds, private schools, connections. Elena had nothing. A room above the garage, a used car, state school loans, yet she became everything I should have valued: kind, selfless, present. Margaret's eyes were fierce. In my final months, you 3 were too busy managing your inheritances. Elena quit her job and cared for me without asking anything in return. So yes, I'm leaving her everything. This will stands. The video ended. This isn't fair, Catherine said weakly. Equitable. I've found my voice. You got trust funds at 25. I got student loans. You got new cars. I got a used Honda. You got Ivy League educations. I got state school and debt. And in Margaret's final months, you kept your comfortable lives while I gave up everything to make sure she didn't die alone. Dorothy pulled out one final envelope. There's something else Margaret wanted Elena to know, something she never told anyone. She handed it to me. Margaret requested you read it aloud. No more secrets. I opened it with shaking hands and began reading. Elena, I need you to know the truth about your father. I told you Roberto left when you were 2, that I paid him to go away. That was a lie. Roberto wanted to stay. He wanted to marry me, to be a father to you. He loved us both, but I was afraid of what society would think. So I told him to leave. I threatened that if he tried to stay, I'd have him deported, ensure he never saw you again. My hands trembled. He wrote you letters every year on your birthday, 26 letters total. I kept them all. Never gave them to you. They're in a box in my bedroom closet. He never stopped loving you. I just never let him show it. Tears streamed down my face. In his last letter, 3 years ago before he died, he said, "Tell Elena I never stopped thinking about her. Tell her she was wanted. Tell her she was loved." I kept that from you, too. This inheritance can't make up for what I stole: a father who loved you, a childhood where you felt wanted. But it's all I have left to give. I'm sorry, my daughter. Dorothy handed me a file box. These are your father's letters, all 26. I opened the top one. Dated on my first birthday, mi querida Elena. Today you turn 1, and I am not there. Your mother sent me away, but I want you to know You are loved, so deeply loved. I will write every year so that someday you'll know you were never forgotten. Thomas spoke quietly. We didn't know about Roberto. We were terrible to you. The inheritance is yours. We won't contest it. I didn't earn it, I said. I just loved someone who needed love. That night, I found the box of letters and read 26 years of love from a father I'd been told did unwant me. I hope you become whatever makes your heart sing, one said. I didn't abandon you. I was taken from you. Another read. I'm dying. Cancer. But every year without you was torture. I never regretted you. You were the best thing I ever made. I love you, me, Hija always. He'd died 3 years ago. I'd never know him, but I knew he'd loved me. 3 months later, I'm converting part of the mansion into a community center art classes for immigrant kids, ESL programs, college prep tutoring. I put up new photos in the hallway. Roberto holding baby me. Is smiling. Him existing in the family narrative that tried to erase him. My name is Elena Vasquez. I'm 28 years old. At the will reading, my half-siblings said I deserved nothing, that I wasn't real family. Then the lawyer spoke. She read Margaret's words, that I was the only one who truly loved her. I didn't inherit $24 million because I was the favorite child. I inherited it because I showed up, because I loved without conditions. And I got the truth I'd always deserved. My father loved me. He never abandoned me. He was stolen from me. Now everyone knows, and that matters more than any amount of money ever could.